to the Richard Green Memorial Court, as it is the Ohio Series. It's the Fostoria Railroaders taking on the Galloway Blue Rockets. This should be a fun matchup. Keaton Aldridge for the Railroaders looks really good this season, and someone else to keep an eye on for this game for both teams. We have the Addison brothers facing off. Trey Shelsky, Keaton Aldridge, Noah Washington, and others for the Railroaders as Jamer Davis leads the Blue Rockets. Here we go from the Richard Green Memorial Court in Galloway, Ohio. Baker Lands looking good, and we are underway from Galloway. Davis gives it to Addison, back to Baker Lands. Gives it to Lomax. Jordan Lomax misses a shot. Here's Michael Addison. Back to Aldridge. Back to Washington. Noah Washington for three. Fostoria is up by three. Here's Jamer Davis. Davis looks. Gives it to Addison. Back to Baker Lands. Gives it to Lomax. Jordan Lomax misses a three. Addison with the rebound. Addison gives it to Woodward. Krishan Woodward for two. Fostoria pulling away. Here is Harper. Baker Lands has it. Gives it to Lomax. Back to Addison. Addison for three. It's Brandon Addison for three. Here is Trey Shelsky. Shelsky looks, gives it to Washington. Noah Washington misses. Baker Lands rebound. Harp with the ball. He looks, he shoots. He misses a three. Shelsky with the rebound. Gives it back to Addison. It's Michael Addison back to Aldridge. Keaton Aldridge looks, gives it to Washington. Noah Washington for three. Here's Jamer Davis. Davis there, gives it to Baker Lands. Harper, Baker Lands looks. Pass to Lomax. Jordan Lomax misses. Here is Krishan Woodward. Gives it to Shelsky. Shelsky looks to Washington. Noah Washington misses the shot. Here is Jordan Lomax. Lomax runs. Here's Davis. Jamer Davis misses the three, and Woodward with the rebound. Here's a pass to Aldridge. Keaton Aldridge looks. Pass to Shelsky. Back to Addison. Michael Addison back to Woodward. Krishan Woodward. He will miss the three. Elmore gives it back to Baker Lands. Here comes Lomax. Jordan Lomax misses. Almost gets the rebound, but it's Noah Washington that picks it up. Keaton Aldridge there. Back to Washington. Washington there. Misses. And it looked like that it was going to be an alley-oop. Jordan Lomax for three. 2-point game. Timeout Railroaders. Fostoria calls a timeout, and it's a 2-point game in this Ohio Series game between the Railroaders of Fostoria and the home team, the Blue Rockets of Galloway. We welcome you back to Fostoria. Take a look at the standings. Man, oh man. The Terre Haute Arrows have always looked good. They are undefeated right now. And right now, Galloway is in a spot where they could miss out on the playoffs. Knox Madston now with it. Back to Washington. About Quinn Volt's there. Noah Washington misses a three. Davis with the rebound. Gives it to Lomax. Here's Lomax. Looks. Back to Bauer. Back to Kitika. Ishmael Kitika for three. He makes it. Misses it, Shelsky gives it back to Washington. Noah Washington misses a three. Kitika with the rebound. Here's Davis. Back to Lomax. Here's Lomax back to Kitika. Gives it back there. Now it's Lomax once again. Jordan Lomax will tie it up. We are all tied at 8. Great game going on early in this one. Here's Knox Madsen. He looks. Gives it to Washington. Noah Washington drives. And he will miss the shot. Kitika with the rebound. Great rebound. Here's Davis. Jamer Davis, really good player indeed. Davis gives it to Lomax. Jordan Lomax. He will make it. And the Blue Rockets have the lead. After a great start by Fostoria, Galloway has pulled out in front. Knox Madsen misses the three. Cash Bauer rebounds. Bauer gives it to Kitika. Ishmael Kitika looks. Guys roaming. Here's Bauer. Cash Bauer for 3.2 left. And that will end the first quarter. Cash Bauer makes a three-pointer. And Galloway storms back in front. It's 13-8 after one. Back live from the Richard Green Memorial Court, where we see the Railroaders take action. Here we go. It's Madsen with the ball. Knox Madsen looks. Passes to Daniels. Back to Madsen. Back to Volts. When Volts looks. Here's Quinton. Back to Madsen. Knox Madsen. He will miss his. Here is Kitika with the rebound. Galloway looks really strong in this one. Back to Cheatham. Back to Bauer. Pull Cheatham there from Union County. And Cash Bauer drains the two. That was a great shot by Cash Bauer. That was a nice step back as well. Here's Knox Madsen getting covered. Madsen misses the three. Cheatham rebound. Here is Baker lands inside. Misses. Kinzer rebound. Knox Madsen looks. He looks. From inside the paint, he drains it. 15-10. Fostoria scores in the second quarter. Here's Harper Baker lands. Timeout, Galloway. The Blue Rockets call a timeout, and it's a 5-point lead for them. We will be back after the break. Welcome back to Galloway, Ohio for this matchup. As we get ready to roll. Here we go. Looks like that the Blue Rockets will have the ball here. Edison ready to inbound. Gives it to Bauer. Bauer gives it to Baker Lands. Pass to Davis. Jamer Davis for three. Galloway starting to pull away a bit. Here's Madsen. Madsen looks strong. Back to Woodward. Krishan Woodward, he will miss the shot. Bauer with the rebound. Here's Kitika. Once again. Ishmael Kitika misses the three. Woodward rebound. And it is Railroaders ball. Madsen driving it deep. And it is almost lost. Oh, what a save by Woodward. Addison. Back to Woodward. Krishan Woodward drains the three. What a save by the Railroaders. It looks like that Baker Lands is getting ready to come back into the game. No, not Baker Lands. Might be Lomax. Baker Lands there. Gives it to Davis. Back to Bauer. Cash Bauer gives it to Davis. Jamer Davis for three. Here's Madsen once again. Knox looks, and it's a timeout by Fostoria. Great game going on in this Ohio Series game. This matchup took at least an hour from Fostoria to get to Galloway. And Fostoria is having a good game with Galloway. It's a tight game, 21-13. We welcome you back. Taking a look at the three-point contest race. Take a look at all these guys. Quentin Volts, Harper Baker Lands, Bryce Wren. All those guys. All those great players. Here we go from Galloway. Woodward gets ready to inbound. Gives it to Shelsky. Shelsky looks back to Aldridge. Keaton Aldridge gives it to Volts. Quentin Volts misses a three. Shelsky rebound. Can't put it back up. Addison with the rebound. Here's Lomax. Gives it to Bauer. Bauer looks back to Kitika. Ishmael Kitika for three. 11-point game. Here's Madsen. Back to Volts. Gives it to Woodward. Krishan Woodward. He will miss the three. Davis rebound. Gives it to Kitika. Back to Lomax. Jordan Lomax. He will miss. And it's Woodward. Back to Aldridge. Aldridge looks. Gives it to Woodward. Again. Back to Volts. Back to Madsen. Knox Madsen misses a three. Jordan Lomax with the rebound. Here's Bauer. Cash Bauer. Slams it in. Oh, goodness gracious. Cash Bauer just made everybody cry in the stands from Fostoria on that play. Woodward gives it to Madsen, and here we go. Knox Madsen has it. He looks back to Woodward. Woodward to Shelsky, and Shelsky misses, but it's a rebound by the Railroaders. Knox Madsen, he misses. Woodward rebound. Keaton Aldridge misses. Now it's Davis with the rebound. Here's Bauer. Back to Davis. Giving it back there to Kitika. He will miss. Shelsky with the rebound. Madsen. Now it's Woodward. Woodward will score. Fostoria will score. Here's Kitika. Ishmael Kitika there. Inside the paint. Now it's Bauer. Cash Bauer misses. And at the end of the first half, Galloway has all the advantage. But we ain't done yet. First half complete. Second half coming up. We welcome you to the halftime show, the Nova Rain halftime show. A great game we are seeing already. Fostoria went up 5-0 early, but it's been all Galloway since. Taking a look at the past replays. Fostoria has put up some good shots, but it's all Galloway in this one. Galloway has looked really good, especially with Ishmael Kittica and Cash Bauer. Cash Bauer and Krishan Woodward, both teams, has 7 points. Bauer, 7 points for the Blue Rockets, and of course for the Railroaders, it's Woodward with 7. Great game early. It's all Galloway though. But will we see the return of Fostoria? Will Fostoria come back and win it? Second half, it's coming right up. Once again from the Richard Green Memorial Court, second half coming to start. Fostoria and Galloway. We had some really good first half highlights. Look at Jordan Lomax looking really good. Lomax has looked really good this game. First half he was on point, and he continued to be on point in the second. Here's Shelsky with it. Second half is underway. Shelsky to Aldridge. Back to Shelsky. Giving it back to Addison. Michael Addison with it. Michael Addison for 3. Davis has the ball. Here's Jamer Davis. Looks for 3. Misses. Addison rebound. Gives it to Woodward. Woodward looks. He misses, but it's a shooting foul on Tyrone Elmore. Listen to the crowd. Fostoria has kept it close. They have kept it close. And now, here we go. Woodward, first free throw is made. Momentum is starting to shift just a little bit. Here's Krishan Woodward. Looking to go once again. Woodward looks, and he will miss the second free throw. Rebound by Elmore. Davis back to Lomax. Back to Davis. Here's Jamer Davis. Gives to Addison. Brandon Addison getting covered by his brother. And it's a violation. 3-second violation by Addison. Man. And who was guarding him? His brother. Fostoria has the ball. Here's Woodward. Back to Aldridge. Aldridge to Shelsky. Trey Shelsky will make the shot, and Fostoria is within 5. The game is getting close, folks. Here's Lomax. Pass Davis. Jamer Davis for 3. Galloway will score for the first time in the second half. Here's Trey Shelsky. And it's a timeout by Fostoria. This game is getting close. Galloway, after a 3 by Jamer Davis, goes up by 8, and we will be back. Back live, take a look at the league leaders in blocks per game. Of course, the Terre Haute Arrows lead everything. The Terre Haute Arrows looking really good this season, led by Nick Green and Zach Ellett. Zach Ellett also just scored 47 points on Orange Beach a couple weeks ago. Here's Shelsky. He looks. Shelsky looks. Gives it to Aldridge. Keaton Aldridge for 2. Aldridge will score. Here's Davis. Davis back to Baker Lyons. Baker Lyons looks. Back to Lomax. Here's Lomax. The crowd roars for him. Lomax back to Baker Lyons. Baker Lyons will miss. Michael Addison rebound. Addison back to Shelsky. Back to Addison. Addison gives it to Woodward. To Aldridge. Keaton Aldridge misses the 3. Rebound by the Blue Rockets. Addison gives it to Davis. Back to Lomax. Jordan Lomax for 3. Jordan Lomax looking really good. Here's Shelsky. Back to Addison. Addison looks. Michael Addison will miss the shot. Elmore rebound. Here's Baker Lyons. He looks back to Davis. Davis back to Baker Lyons. Pass back to Addison. Addison looks. Pass to Baker Lyons. Harper Baker Lyons. He will miss. Woodward rebound, and it's a loose ball foul by Jamer Davis. That's a second foul on Galloway. On the court now for the Railroaders. Madsen, Washington, and others. Here's Knox Madsen with it. Back to Addison. Addison misses. Bauer is into the game now for the Blue Rockets. Lomax back to Baker Lyons. Pass back to Lomax. Jordan Lomax couldn't make it for the wing. Here is Addison. Back to Madsen. Knox Madsen sets back, and he will make it. Fostoria trying to come back and win this. Here's Davis. Back to Baker Lyons, back to Davis. Pass to Lomax. Jordan Lomax is unstoppable in this game. Here is Madsen. He looks. Giving it back to Woodward. Woodward misses, but it's a foul by Jordan Lomax. Listen to the crowd. Woodward back on the line for 2 as Fostoria is in the bonus. Woodward looks, first free throw is made. Quentin Volts, Landon Kinzer are into the game for the Railroaders, and for the Rockets, it's Kittica. And Riley Barton as well. Cheatham gives it to Kittica. Both free throws were made by Woodward. Here's Ishmael Kittica. He looks. Back to Cheatham. Cole Cheatham looks. Now it's Kittica once again. He looks, drives it in. Steps back out, but now there to Baker Lyons. Baker Lyons. Harper, Baker Lyons looks inside. Look at the defense. Pass to Kittica. Trying to shoot it. Now he will. No, it's Riley Barton who will miss. Tips. And the rebound. Knox Madsen misses a 3. Game is close. Here entering the final quarter of play. Jordan Lomax once again cannot be stopped. Fourth quarter coming up here from fourth quarter coming up here from Galloway. We will welcome you back to Galloway. Great game coming up. Davis back to Lomax. We have seen great playing today. Barton gives it to Davis. 34-27. Really low-scoring game. The defense. Both defenses have been spectacular. Here's Kinneka. Gives it to Davis. Jamer Davis looks. Great defense there. Here's Addison. He misses. Kinzer rebound. Here's Quinn Volts. Gives it back to Aldridge. Aldridge looks in the dunk by Layden Kinzer. And it's an assist by Keaton Aldridge. Jamer Davis looks. Can they hold on to the lead? Davis gives it to Kinneka. Fake shot. Here comes Kinneka. Back to Davis. Jamer Davis for three. Great shot by Galloway. Most every Ohio Series game has been really good. Timeout Fostoria. Galloway up 37-29. Really good game here from the Richard Green Memorial Court. We welcome you back to Galloway, Ohio. This game, once again, is also presented by the Thundercats. Watch now on YouTube, on the Crazy Sports Kid Network YouTube channel, the Thundercats, all about the IHSAA sports. Here's Kinzer. Looks. Back to Woodward. Gives it back to Aldridge. Gives it back to Madsen. Gives it to Woodward again. Pass to Madsen. Looking to slow the game down just a little bit. There to Kinzer. Layden Kinzer for three. He makes those. He always does. Here is Davis. Back to Addison. Gives it to Barton. Here's Riley Barton. Looks. Back to Addison. Gives it to Kinneka. Ishmael Kinneka looks. Back to Barton. Riley Barton misses. Tipped, and it's rebounded by Woodward. Here's Madsen. Knox Madsen gives it to Kinzer. Back to Woodward. Kershawn Woodward misses, and it's an Addison rebound. This time, it's the Blue Rockets. Pass back to Davis. Davis looks back to Addison. Brandon Addison with it. Covered by Woodward. Great defense by Woodward. Addison drives it. Looking to shoot it. Back to Davis. Jamer Davis will miss. Volts with the rebound. Here's Madsen. Madsen with it. Back to Kinzer. Gives it to Woodward. Woodward inside the paint. Does not drop into the basket. Kinneka rebound. Bauer gives to Addison. Brandon Addison. Timeout Fostoria. One timeout left for the Railroaders. 2:09 left to go in the game. In a game fueled by rivalry. It's a game, Fostoria, Galloway, it's a good one. Man, great game indeed. Baker Lane, Lomax, Addison, and another guy is in. How about Noah Washington back into the game for the Railroaders? Here's Woodward. Kershawn Woodward looks. Big jump, back to Washington. Noah Washington drives it in. He will score. 1:55 left in this game and counting. Here's Davis, gives it to Baker Lands. Back to Davis. Gives it to Lomax. Great defense coming up by Fostoria. Lomax misses a three. Addison with the rebound. Here's Aldridge. Keaton Aldridge with it. Pass to Woodward. Back to Addison. Addison looks. Michael Addison misses the three. Elmore rebound. Pass back to Addison. It's Brandon Addison. Back to Baker Lanes. To Lomax. Lomax looks to drive it. Staying tough on defense is Noah Washington. Lomax drains it two. Here's Shelsky. Shelsky looks. Back to Aldridge. Keaton Aldridge misses the three. Elmore. There. It's crunch time in Galloway. Here's Davis. Davis looks. He's going to hold the ball. That should do it from Galloway, though. Here's Davis. Davis back to Lomax. Jordan Lomax drains it, and that will put the nail in the coffin. The crunch time adversity for Fostoria is way too much to handle. Woodward there with it. Look at the defense. Misses the shot. Rebound Baker lands. And Galloway is going to hang on in a very close game in the Ohio Series matchup versus the Fostoria Railroaders. The Galloway Blue Rockets hang on. They will win it 44-34 at home by 10. Fantastic game from the Richard Green Memorial Court. Fostoria has to go home without a win in this Ohio Series matchup, but they will go at it once again in the future. Great game by both teams. Time for the player of the game. It's Jamer Davis. Jamer Davis, great player tonight. He was one of the best guys on the court indeed for the for the Blue Rockets. Thanks for watching.